If you're a super liberal watching this video, I'm sure we can both come to common ground and agree that the government is wasting so much money on crap.
I know what your concerns are. I've heard your concerns.
Canada is not what it used to be. There was a time when you could buy a house for $200,000, we had clean air, you had nice neighbors, and of course, we had lots of maple syrup. But I'm seeing new trends coming along that I'm gonna discuss in this video on why it's making it so hard to invest. Here are the 5 reasons why I'm no longer investing in Canadian real estate and I'm investing, I'll tell you soon. First and foremost, cash flow doesn't really make sense anymore. When I started investing in 2012 in Kitchener-Waterloo, this area here is where I created all my wealth, and it was from buying single family properties, easy peasy strategy, was making amazing properties that tenants really loved and enjoyed. And thankfully, I've never really had a bad issue with a tenant, which I'll discuss more in this video, but that single family strategy doesn't really work anymore in 2023. I mean, from 2012 right up to like 2019, you could buy pretty much any single family property in a major city, and that's one caveat, by the way, for this entire video. I'm not talking about Alberta, I'm not talking about Saskatchewan, I'm not talking about New Brunswick, I'm talking about actual hit cities in good areas. These are the areas where it's getting really hard to invest, because let's be real, we don't want to invest in Alberta. Sorry, Alberta. And why? Prices have skyrocketed a ton, that is not a secret. And while you may be thinking,
well, Matt, rents have also skyrocketed.
That is true, but not nearly as fast or as high as prices for homes, which is crazy. And now with interest rates being so high, it is just like literally impossible to have a single family property cash flow in a good area. So what did we do in 2018, 2019 when this trend was already starting to happen? We started specializing in duplex conversions. If a single family property can't cash flow, a duplex certainly can. And they did. They were amazing properties, and we kind of became like the specialists of duplex conversions. I did that for so many of my clients, and they were kick-ass properties, and they did cash flow anywhere from $200 to $400 a month again. But now, even those don't work anymore in 2023. So your only option if you want to invest in a quality main city in Ontario especially is to go to multifamily real estate, which is cool. Multifamily is awesome, but what if you're not into buying giant multifamily buildings? Kind of like me, I don't really like those properties. Why? They attract scrub tenants, let's be real. And if you're watching this and you live in an apartment, you're not a scrub tenant. Why? Because you're a fruitful follower. But let's be real, generally the cheaper the rent is, which apartments are obviously cheaper than detached homes, the more likely you're gonna attract a scrub tenant who's gonna not pay you rent, you're gonna smash your property and just give you so many friggin' headaches. So I personally don't like multifamily buildings for that reason. I want quality. Number 2, where am I investing? Surprise, surprise, probably not a surprise if you're a follower. We're investing mainly in the United States when it comes to long-term buy and hold real estate. Why do we invest there? It's a much bigger country, 10 times bigger literally than Canada in terms of population size. So there's just way more opportunity, there's way more deals, there's way more motivated sellers. And what I really like is the United States real estate market is really set up more like a capitalistic society, like what it should be, as opposed to Canada. And just to be clear, because I get asked this all the time, for our flipping business, which is really our main real estate investing strategy, we are still going gung-ho in Canada, in my local area of 1 hour radius of Kitchener-Waterloo. We're still buying a ton of properties for the purpose of flipping. So that's all good. I'll do that all day long in Ontario and Canada. But buy and hold, absolutely not, and you're gonna find out why in the rest of this video. Canada has a lot of safeguards, which is great. I actually like that. For someone to go bankrupt and have their home foreclosed on is a long process in Canada. It can take up to a year at minimum. There's a lot of safeguards. There's a lot of areas to help you not go bankrupt and lose your house. But in the US, it's not like that at all. Their economy is literally sink or swim. If you can't pay your mortgage in a couple of months, you're out of there. There's no safety guards. There's no outside help that's gonna help you with your credit rating. We have all of that in Canada. The US has almost none of that. So it kind of keeps prices at bay. And that's the main difference between Canada and America. In Canada, we do not have enough infrastructure and enough houses to supply the population. And with Canada bringing in a record number of immigrants every year, which is absolutely fantastic for our economy, let's be real, 90% of those are going to the GTA, Toronto surrounding area. So pretty much my area. Freaking onslaught of population growth from other countries and other provinces all coming to this area, and we're not building fast enough. Permits take way too long for a builder, and they're just way too expensive. I can tell you that as an investor and as a carpenter, I would love to have a fruitful home development, but I looked into it. It just doesn't doesn't make sense. It takes like well over a year just to get your permit given to you. It could cost anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000 per single family house just to be allowed to build a house. Like, it's crazy. Again, I can spend a longer video on all of this stuff, and I'm planning to make a very long documentary style video about this. But basically, the politics in Canada and Ontario are just way out of whack to actually solve the housing crisis. Now, what does this all matter in this video? If we have a housing crisis, it means real estate prices are gonna keep going up. It's basic supply and demand. If you have a ton of demand, but very, very little supply, what do you think is gonna happen to prices? They're all gonna go up. Because of this, I can no longer, unfortunately, buy rental properties in Canada. It's doing very well for my flipping business. Thank the Lord for that. But for my buy and hold business, it's the worst thing possible. The next reason why I can no longer invest in long-term real estate in Canada, and especially Ontario, is because the landlord-tenant board is absolutely brutal. Now, if you're watching this and you're a tenant, you probably love it. But as a landlord, to be able to provide housing for a tenant, why would I do that? The tenants have way, way, way more rights than even I do. And I'm the one who owns the fucking property. My name is on title, and I can't do what I want with it. If a tenant screws me, a tenant can live in my property for months and months, almost a year, and totally get away with it scot-free without paying rent. Why would I do that when I can invest in Florida and Texas specifically is where we're doing most of our long-term investing? In Texas, if you don't pay your rent, you have like literally 3 days to get the hell out, or a sheriff comes within 2 weeks, 3 weeks max and drags you out. You're done. There's no appeals. There's no landlord-tenant board where you can counter-sue. No. The sheriff grabs you and you're getting the fuck out. And honestly, that's the way it honestly has to be. If I'm buying a property for $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 and you're not gonna pay me rent, get out. Now, until those rules change, you're not gonna see a fix to the housing crisis in Ontario, because landlords like me aren't gonna step up and provide more supply for the market. We're gonna go to other places, other countries and other states and invest our money there where it's safer for us, there's less risk for us. It's a no-brainer. That's what investors are gonna do. Now, the next reason why I also can't invest in Canada is taxes are way too high. Now, I'm not anti-tax, okay? Tax is a great thing. It pays for our roads, it pays for our infrastructure, it pays for all the medical and services we get, so that's really cool. If you drive through America, you'll see it real quick. As soon as you cross the border, the infrastructure, it's a joke compared to Canada, honestly. So I'm thankful that we have taxes in Canada and we have the safe infrastructure that we do. However, it is too high.
But wait, Matt, you just said you love the taxes. Now you're saying they're too high? How can you get all the stuff that you like?
True, but no surprise, the government is kings and queens of wasteful spending. So while I'm not necessarily saying we need to cut services and cut funding to certain important areas, which if an entrepreneur became prime minister, it would be very, very easy to go down the balance sheet and see where all this friggin' money is going and trim the fat. We can definitely tighten that budget up and make it more organized. But back to what I was saying about high taxes. If you sell a rental property, you get taxed at 50%. 50% of the money you made is gonna be gone to the government. It's not competitive. Investors like me are gonna go to other places once we become more savvy and understand business, which is the natural progression of most investors. We invest in Canada, we invest in our own backyard, it's easy, we live here, we understand it. But once we get a little more savvy and get a lot of education and knowledge under our belt, we're looking at America going, Florida has a 0 state tax. Texas has a 0 state tax. I can do the same thing down there, the same exact thing I'm doing here, and pay 20% tax or 50. And just think about it. I owned 50 individual homes. So just from me alone over the past couple years, selling all of them off, Kitchener-Waterloo lost 50 rental houses just from me alone. That's a lot. So what would I do if I was Prime Minister of Canada and I actually cared about the housing crisis for all people of all parties? I would lower tax rate for real estate investors to 0. Why? I need to incentivize you to bring more houses online to the market, to bring that supply and demand back in check, which will actually help prices stay more stable. And the proof is just south of the border. As soon as you cross the border, prices are way more stable and more in line and realistic to what you're getting than Canada. For example, I can provide you dozens of properties that are right on the border of Niagara Falls on the Canada side, and any single family home, generally that's a piece of crap, is still gonna sell for $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 for just a regular detached home. But the second you cross the border on the Niagara side of the United States, that same detached house, 1-car garage, 3-bed, 2-bath are literally selling between $150,000 and $250,000. Like, it doesn't make sense. They're 10 minutes apart. But the housing market is just much more stable. It's weird, but that's how it is. Well, the properties we're buying in Florida, 3-bed, 2-bath, 1-car garage, 2-car garage in Cape Coral, Florida, you're like 20 minutes, 30 minutes away from an ocean. There's palm trees everywhere. We're buying those properties for about $350,000. That same friggin' house in Kitchener, Ontario would be like $800,000. And if we put apples to apples and put that Kitchener-Waterloo property somehow next to an ocean like it is in Florida, that property would be like $1.6 million. Prices are out of whack because the economics in Canada are out of whack. And last but not least, another reason why I can no longer invest in Canada is the financing is a freaking nightmare. To buy an investment property here, even as a Canadian citizen, is like a nightmare. You gotta jump through a million hoops, provide all tax documents going back to like 2014, all your credit card statements, your income's gotta be this, you gotta be that, TDS ratio of this, GDS ratio of that, blah, blah, blah. It's like impossible to buy a property in America. I can buy a property as a foreigner, a Canadian citizen, buying properties in the US. All I need to provide to buy a rental property and provide more housing to the Americans is 30% down. I need to show where the money came from to prove it's not like drug money. And I have to prove that the property will cash flow more than the expenses of the mortgage and the property taxes with a simple appraisal. If I can answer those 3 questions, I can get a mortgage and I can buy a property. No credit checks.
No document statements, no tax statements, no bank statements, nothing.
Why? America is open for business. They understand the business of real estate. Then you got Canada over here.
Oh geez, I don't know. He's gonna buy the property, the tenant's gonna, oh geez, I don't know. You don't get financing, no.
So this is why I can no longer invest in Canada. I can't fix the housing market solely on my own. I wish I could. I'm trying. No, I'm kidding, not really. I just wanna make money in real estate. Anyway guys, that's the video. I hope you liked it. Stay tuned for the next one. Let's go.